Original.
44% of the precincts, this is the popular vote. Carter has 51% of the vote, and Ford has 48% of the vote. And that's the popular vote, and you can see the actual figures there. And Harry has a projection for us, an ABC projection for us at this point.
We are now prepared to project that in the state of Arizona, with its 6 electoral votes, Gerald Ford will win by a comfortable margin. That continues a pattern that has been establishing in the popular vote in Arizona at the moment. Carter is ahead 56% to 42%. That's 13% of those votes have been counted. That obviously reflects, I suppose, Phoenix and some of the parts of the state that would not go for Ford. When it's all over, Mr. Ford will have run there by a comfortable margin.
The electoral picture, it looks like this. 270 votes needed to claim the presidency, and at this point, Ford has 85 of those votes, and Carter has 197 of those votes, but there are still some very important states that haven't come in. Many of them states in the Midwest and the West, and those could be the decisive ones if they come in fairly soon for Carter, or it could go on and on.
Well, Barbara, we haven't looked at Virginia for a long, long time, and most of the votes are counted, but it's a dead heat. You look at the card for Virginia, 87% of the people have voted, or the votes have been counted, and Ford has 51% to Carter's 49%. It's been jumping around between 50 and a big 50 and a small 50 all evening.
Also in Mississippi, and that's a state that's kind of holding everything up in the South in terms of it all going for Carter. That's still too close to call, with 45% of the precincts in. Carter has 51% of the vote, Ford has 48% of the vote, and we're still sweating it out for Mississippi.
Besides a couple of the states that I've been watching, Barbara and Howard, you people have landslides. I've been watching Iowa, where I was born. 41% of the precincts have reported in Iowa, and it's 49% for Ford, 49% for Carter. I've been watching Texas, which is a critical state. 53% of the precincts in Texas have now reported. 50% for Jimmy Carter, 49% for Ford, 1% for Gene McCarthy. For a while, Eugene McCarthy seemed to be using his 1% in Texas in favor of President Ford. Now he's shifted and is using in favor of Jimmy Carter.
That big state out west, California, it is much too soon to tell. The only thing that we do know is that there's been an exceptionally heavy turnout reported in California. 85% of the registered voters have gone to the polls in Los Angeles County, so it's going to be a big vote there. We have standing by in Washington Senator Henry Jackson, and he is with Frank Tomlinson, and we'll go right now to the senator.
Senator Jackson, just a little while ago, Jim Baker, the president's campaign manager, predicted that this election is going to be won in the West. Have we reached a point where you can reach and win the election in the West?
Well, Frank, the election will be won before it hits the West. I believe the political arithmetic is with Jimmy Carter. He's going to win it before he hits the West Coast, especially California.
Well, when they get to the West here, there are 98 votes in the 11 western states. How many do you think Jimmy Carter is going to take?
Well, if you believe the polls, it's going to be rough sledding out here. But I think that California, with the heavy turnout, could be a turnaround and could be for Jimmy Carter. I think it's going to end up that way at this point.
As Barbara noted earlier this evening, we're not going to have a woman to be seated with you in the U.S. Senate because you have no opposition basically here. But there is a woman running for governor here, Dixie Lee Ray, former head of the Atomic Energy Commission. How's she going to make out?
She's going to win. You know, it's been a popular thing to do to walk down the street and say, what's your party affiliation? Usually they say, I vote for the man. I think in the state of Washington, at least, in one of the top offices, they'll be saying, I'm voting for the woman.
Why is it here in the state of Washington that you, Henry Jackson, last time you got 87% of the vote? Seems the only question with you right now is whether you're going to get 87 again or maybe 90.
Well, our people are very independent-minded. I've received these big margins while at the same time they'll be voting for a Republican governor or for some other Republican for statewide office or for the White House. It's, I think, typical of the West. Our people do vote for the person.
How much of a role is the Watergate playing in this thing right now tonight?
Neither Playboy or Watergate. really been a topic of conversation out here that I could find.
Neither one had an influence?
Well, I can't say. Maybe subconsciously, yes, but not overtly. People have not been talking. Once in a while, they'd come up, whisper to you, "What about Playboy?" But that was a rather rare thing. And Watergate came up peripherally rather than directly.
Barbara, I believe you have a question.
Yes, I'm sorry, it's a little hard for us sometimes to communicate when we can't see each other. But Senator, I wonder, as you sit there tonight, you must have some memories, you must have some feeling of it might have been I. Do you feel that? Do you look back and say, if only I had done this or that? If you say yes, that you're not thinking of this at all, I'd be surprised.
Well, Barbara, I've campaigned hard for Governor Carter in Florida, New York, Connecticut, California, and into Utah. And, when you go into politics, you run, you must recognize that there can only be one winner. And I'm pretty philosophical about it. And I have some second thoughts. We made some mistakes along the way. But I've been wholeheartedly for Governor Carter from the very beginning, and I'm proud of that.
Thank you very much, Senator. It's nice to see you all the way across the country. Good to see you again.
And the weather's nice out here, Barbara.
Thank you. Earlier this evening, ABC News projected Daniel Patrick Moynihan, the winner in the New York Senate race, and apparently his opponent, James Buckley, was ready to concede. Just a few minutes ago, Buckley made this statement.
But I want to say this, that we've had 6 years in the Senate of the United States, all of us, you and me. We have shown that we in New York have grown from what was considered a fringe 39% to something which was a serious contender for freedom, for sound government, for common sense, for the principles that will allow our communities and our families to determine their own destinies. We're going to continue to work, all of us, you and me. We have got New York on the move. We got the country on the move. I intend to continue to work with you to ensure that we have sound government and freedom and the conservative cause. In any struggle there are setbacks, but in every struggle there is progress, and we're on the right side, and we're going to make it. And so I wish Daniel Patrick Moynihan well, because I wish New York well, and I wish the country well, but we're going to be there pushing our points forward, and we're going to succeed. This country is going to continue in the direction of the conservative cause, the console cause.
James Buckley, in a cheerful concession speech tonight, conceding that the next Senator of New York will be Daniel Patrick Moynihan. Coming up next, more of our continuous election coverage right after this.
Welcome back to our election night coverage. I want to talk a little bit at this point about women and talk to two women. First of all, the situation about women. The only woman who was running for the United States Senator, Gloria Schaefer, was defeated in the state of Connecticut, and Lowell Weicker was re-elected there. There is one woman still running for governor, who still has a chance for governor, and that's Dixie Lee Ray in Washington. There were 19 women in the House of Representatives, and women are doing well this evening in the House. There are 13 up for re-election, and all are leading in their districts. And also one new woman has won, Barbara Mikulski of Maryland, whom they say might be another Bella Abzug. Well, I don't know if there could be another Bella Abzug, but Bella Abzug will not be in the House of Representatives this year because she ran for Senate in New York, and she lost that primary election, and so at least for the next 2 years she will not be part of the scene in Washington in the House. But Bella Abzug is with us tonight here in New York, and you see her, and also in Houston joining us Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, and we welcome them both. How do you feel tonight when you look, you see Buckley, you know that Moynihan won here in New York, and you think it might have been Bella Abzug? How do you feel? Can you hear me?
How do I feel?
Yes.
Well, I want to congratulate Mr. Moynihan. I think that New York needs vigorous representation, and I hope he can give it to us. I think you always have a certain amount of disappointment. I won't deny that. But he won, and I congratulate him. And I think and hope that we'll all be better off for it.
I want to come back and ask what you're going to be doing for the next 2 years, at least, because I'm sure you'll be doing a great deal. But as I mentioned earlier, we have Barbara Jordan in Houston. And I wonder how you feel at this point about the fact that we will have women in the House, but we don't have any women in the Senate. How do you feel women are doing?
Well, Barbara, in the main, women are doing well when it comes to representation in the House of Representatives. It is a serious and deep disappointment to me that there still will be no woman in the United States Senate. I think that that is a situation which must change, and perhaps in time we will change it, but I am very disappointed that the Senate remains an all-male citadel of political power.
How do you explain it, Ms. Jordan, that when I came to Washington, there were 2 women in the Senate. Now women have gained special rights everywhere, and there are no women left in the Senate as of last elections. What happened? What's happened?
You know, I know that people find it difficult to believe, but I firmly believe there is a feeling that is very strong among men in the populace and some women that the United States Senate is not a place for a woman. I think that that is very latent, but it is real, and I feel that that is what is happening. That attitude is surfacing, that the Senate is not a body for women.
How about you, Ms. Abzug? What's your opinion of that?
Well, I'd like to say that in the history of the Senate, only 2 women actually ever were elected in their own right. Most of the women were elected as, condolences for the death of their husbands. I think that the public, by reason of polls, and even in my own election, I lost, if you recall, by 1 point. The public is ready for it, but I think there's an enormous amount of resistance on the part of those in power, which is essentially male, and in that sense I agree with my colleague Barbara. There is a resistance to allowing women to be at the very top, whether it's in the United States Senate, at the top of a trade union, at the top of a corporation, at the top of a broadcasting system. We find this very interesting. Women are moving up little by little. More women are running for office in the states. Women are running for office in the Congress. But when we get to the very top, that's when they give us the push. And I think we all have to realize that that has got to change. I agree with Barbara that we can't go into our 200th anniversary without making sure that next time around we get women into the Senate and we make the power structures respond to it much more in a more committed way. And I think if Carter wins, who has made a strong commitment to women on all levels of government, that should considerably help and cause a change in the attitude of those at the top of the power structures of our country.
Mrs. Abzug, I listened to you talk, and I think as soon as this election race is over, you and I should sit down and have a cup of tea and chat a little bit. We've got some things to discuss. I do want to ask...
I certainly look forward to that.
Thank you. I would like to ask you one more question while we're still with you. What are you going to do for the next 2 years? You must have thought ahead. You're certainly not going to leave politics. So what do you see as your strategy?
Well, I really haven't had a chance to talk to myself yet. I've been working very hard in the Carter campaign since the election was over in the primary. I expect to be able to remain in the public arena fighting for the things I've always fought for: peace, rights for all people, especially women, economic security for people. I'll be out there. I'll be having lots of cups of teas, though, before I decide just what it is that would be most effective for me to do.
Congresswoman Jordan, what about you? People expect great things from you. You'll be back in the House. What about Senate, or even further up than that in the future?
Well, Barbara, I am not going to write anything out of my political future. I don't know whether it will be the Senate or some other area of endeavor, but suffice it to say, I'm delighted to be returned to the House, and I fully intend to remain open to whatever opportunity appears to be logical and practical for me.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Jordan. We congratulate you on your re-election tonight. And to Mrs. Abzug, there will be a great many people who will miss you very much in the House, and we expect to see you continuing in politics, certainly.
Thank you.
Coming up, more of our continuous election coverage right after this.
A quick look now at the popular vote. Half of it's been counted. 48% of the precincts reporting in. Carter, 51%. Ford, 49%. Meanwhile, there have been some more results in the United States Senate, and Frank Reynolds has those. Frank?
In the state of Nevada, it comes as no surprise to anybody that Senator Howard Cannon will be re-elected to a fourth term. That's the ABC News projection at this point, with not very many votes in, but not many are required to make a projection about Nevada, particularly when Howard Cannon is the candidate. Cannon has been in the Senate for 3 terms. Actually, he became famous, however, when he was, as chairman of the Rules Committee, he handled the hearings looking into both vice presidential designate Gerald Ford and Rockefeller. Now let's go to Daniel Patrick Moynihan here at his headquarters in New York.
They said that New York was on the ballot this November 2nd, and New York won. I would like to thank Senator Buckley for his gracious statement. It is the case that he represents a political view in this country, and that he will carry on fighting for that view as he ought to do. And I'll go on fighting him and that view.
So there is Daniel Patrick Moynihan, the newly elected senator from the state of New York. We have one other projection to make at this point. We had the man on the air here just a short while ago, Senator Henry Jackson of the state of Washington. ABC News now projects with absolute certainty that he will be the victor in his bid for re-election. He's defeating George Brown, an airline pilot. The last time around, Senator Jackson got 82% of the vote in 1970. The only question now is whether he will actually increase that kind of a margin. So that's the story on the Senate.
Thank you, Frank. Just to bring you up to date, right at this point, electoral votes, Carter 197, Ford 85, and we'll have more of our continuous election coverage right after this. Carter 197 electoral votes, Ford 85. That's the National Election Night story at 22 minutes after the hour.